real conditions can be created locally. Means companies can be built up, which this education serves. Also, the sales of products can, of course, be done via traditional land routes, but also via websites. Capital goods such as machinery can be shared in a sharing process in local hubs. Example, machinery ring. It's already created in Germany. Banks provide microcredit models that promote the self-employment of women. Insurance companies create self-financing models for entrepreneurs. The health system is also expanded through telemedicine and variable facilities on site. Again, this can be expanded on the criterion of sustainability. The knowledge transfer focuses on sustainability concepts and technology that these companies can use from the various sectors. Sustainable financial and investment concepts are developed for this purpose. This also applies to suitable marketing concepts. Connection on a supranational level are created virtually. My example is, for instance, the establishment of a peace project for women in the peace zone of Korea, or the agri-entrepreneurship factory in Africa. This is made together with Kabbalah International University. It's an American online university that is especially created for the needs of people in for, faraway districts, faraway countries, and they connect them and teach them on their needs. That means it is specialized, it is but also spread. It's interdisciplinary, but it's also international. We have a project in Africa that we create hubs there. Hubs composed for farmers, for young farmers, entrepreneurs, and they are taught with the tools for applying this modern technologies, but also the modern concepts of sustainability. These farmers get also the help that we establish with them the banking instruments for microcredits, and also insurance companies that care for the self financing system for insurances, because people in faraway districts are very often not really good insured and are in immense troubles if they get sick. So this is also a very important thing, and we can also coordinate this with some managers of BayWa, and they will also take over the teaching system, as well as professors from Africa, because the Kabbalah International University has a lot of professors with their origins in Africa. Professor Akiji Akpukpa, for instance, is one of them, and they can teach the technologies and the concept as well. So we also connect them to NGOs that helps them to further develop, and this is the aim in this African hub. The subjects are waste and water management, for instance, was very important. Science corporations, I already mentioned it. Incentives for sustainable farming, food security, and consciousness for health. This is what we create in place in several places in Africa, but also virtual. This means we connect also single producers or single entrepreneurs from all over Africa in a virtual hub, and they can also exchange on this virtual base. We have a virtual laboratories to develop science concepts and so on. This is the project in Africa. For Women in Peace project in Korea, we proposed that the women from South and North Korea can join in a production site in the peace zone and produce together a cultural good, similar to what is done in Morocco with the argan oil. There's this Argan Door is a project of this. This is a project that is on the development on the umbrella of this argan of the argan UNESCO World Heritage, and they produce together this argan oil. But we can also do that in Korea, that women together can produce a cultural good of this region, means ginseng or whatever, with modern technologies of sustainability, modern concepts of sustainability, and they can get the support with microfinance concepts and all these necessary tools they need and connections they need to produce this product and can sell it via websites, for instance. So this is the try to apply this concept of decentralization and financial management and marketing also, of course, to this developments of digitalization and sustainability. Yes, these are in short the projects I did. You see it here on the sheet. This is the structure, policy, economic, technology, and society. Michaela, could you put the next one? Michaela, yeah. So these are the vision, the global coordinated industry of sustainability. Here we use it as a hub model, but you can use it also with other possibilities, with cities, with free regions, to combine them. This is a loose combination. It's not a ruled combination, but a loose combination, similar as Crypto Valley or Silicon Valley in America. Participants are scientists, industrial players, entrepreneurs, investors, shareholders, and politicians. The devices are policy, economy, science, and society. The aim is that all parts of this facets of the sustainability industry should be integrated to create an optimized ecosystem for the sustainability of wealth and health of society. Also, the special feature is interdisciplinary and international connectivity. Examples I already mentioned. You can put the next one, Michaela. Yeah, this is put. It's the same in the end. Put in a thing. And here you see sustainable hub and agriculture hub. Then the entrepreneurs factory. You can go on. The entrepreneurs factory on the right side. Next one. Yeah, on the right side. No. Yeah, no. The last one, I think.
Last one.
Yeah, entrepreneurs. Yeah, women's project and entrepreneurs factory. This was what I explained and tried to show you before. The women's project in Korea, production of a cultural product from women with North and South Korea. Ingredients are economy, farm companies can be part of it. Products, nutrition, medicine, cosmetic can be put out of it and sell it online. A policy, the project is supported by, the Carolyn Henson of the Women for Peace Association in UN is interested in this project. I could present it in the Women's Association. And new technology advices for farming and production will be used and tested, like vertical farming, integrated sustainable farming, waste and water management, and so on. The subject will be presented to society and is used as an integrational model for women from South and North Korea. The Entrepreneurs Factory I already introduced in Africa. It's a mixed hub of startups, but also can be used only as an entrepreneurship factory, as Professor Ikechi Akbukpa from Nigeria and me were developing for the African market. The economies and startups out of this agriculture sector, but also companies. The politics is supported by nations and EU. The technology is that we use is AI, artificial intelligence, virtual reality, blockchain, apps, and everything that is also connected to agriculture, as I already mentioned. Then society, this project will be used to create entrepreneurs, and it's especially in Africa important because they have a lot of young people there. The generation is very young, and so we have to apply it to on a wider base, not only to the ups in the governments, but also on a broader base. And we have also support of an African company in London that's dealing with these financial instruments exactly for these purposes, and they support us with this project now. And this is an investment, an African investment company, And yeah, we try to go on with this project and apply with GEZ for instance, also for the BMZ. This is our Ministry of Economic Development in Germany. They have funds for things like that, and we are now in the process to applying for the funds for this project and also collecting additional supporters and funds. Yeah, that's the end of the story from my side. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Amazing. Thank you very much. Beatrice, just please let me stop sharing my presentation. Okay, so thank you very much for introducing us your project, and now I would like to introduce you our other panelists. So first of all, I would like to introduce Ms. Mariana Burbuk-Reuben. Mariana is a holder of 2 European master degrees in government, public budgeting, and taxation policies. Mariana built extensive knowledge and expertise in licensing and the restructuring of businesses in the UAE and KSA over the last decade, at the forefront of entrepreneur development in Dubai, backed by talented and dedicated professionals. She's passionate about delivering tailored business solutions and giving entrepreneurs the boost they need to become successful. Welcome, Mariana, and would you like to add something and say hello to our audience?
Thank you very much for such a warm introduction. It's an honor to be here with all of you and share this panel or the discussion on the subject with the talented and let's say powerful. We empower women on our panel today. As you have mentioned, I am passionate about delivering tailored solutions to businesses in the UAE and the Middle East. And I, through my own example, over 12 years, have gone through the process of a country change in supporting women in a leadership position, in giving access to women in different industries, and to promote women in presenting their talents and their abilities to the opportunities that come in at an equal measure, or in some instances with more access than men in the Middle East in some specific projects. So what Bismos's group is about is that we are a government affairs agency, and we create that bridge of communication between the businesses and the government officials, between individuals and government officials, and vice versa. I have passionately been dedicated over a decade to empower women in the UAE and the Middle East to become entrepreneurs. I have gone through numerous projects where women have had to be sponsored by husbands and had no access to running their own businesses, to now having access to freelance licensing, work from home, part-time jobs, women sponsoring men. I mean, we're talking a decade ago where you had to explain why you have to sponsor residency of your husband, and now this is a normality, and this is actually encouraged. We have seen great changes in promoting women in industries that are very biased, right? Like mechanical or engineering, or other than teaching and medical, which is such a commonality across the globe. So it has been a pride and an honor to be part of this roller coaster of changes of women coming into attention and focus, and giving not just equal access, but adapted access and condition to women needs, to motherhood needs in the region for professional growth alongside personal growth, of course. Serving currently over 8,000 customers more. We have quadrupled our operations in the last 2 years, and I'm very proud to say that majority, and we're talking a vast majority of businesses, are owned by women. And a lot of women migrate nowadays from Europe into the UAE because they see that safety net, that access, that trust that the governments here give. UAE obviously is the leader, but we see great shifts in Bahrain, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia. We see a change not just of narrative, but also a catapult of opportunities for women in technology, in innovation, and in personal development too. I mean, I have a broad spectrum of women that are single moms, sponsoring their children, and able to develop a life, a career, and a motherhood successful experience in the Middle East. And we wouldn't even comprehend that as a possibility about less than 20 years ago. So it's a pride to be here today and to share the knowledge and expertise through what I have lived and through what my talented team at Bismosys, which is mostly women, by the way, have delivered to our clients, from startups, SMEs, freelancers, to big MCNs across the globe that we serve in the region, and help with FDI, licensing, structuring, relocation, banking, and any other business needs that they or their families might have.
Okay, amazing. Thank you very much, Mariana. I completely agree with you, and I'm really happy that we have here, let's say, someone from Middle East as well, so we can really compare the development. Okay, thank you very much. And now, last but not least, I would like to introduce Ms. Petra Paletza. Petra is an experienced banker and lawyer. She's holding a PhD in copyright law and has specialized in the area of digitalization. She's the founder of the Davos Digital Forum, a think tank dedicated to smart cities development, and Role Model Rebels, an international cross-professional platform with 1,000+ female members from 40+ countries. In addition, she's also co-founder of the Swiss Legal Technology Conference. For these efforts, she received in 2018 the award Women of Legal Tech 2018, and 2020 she was also awarded European Women of Legal Tech. She has a deep understanding and extensive knowledge in the current digital marketplace and landscape, especially in legal, government, RegTech, but also in smart city environment and topics. She is the co-author of a best-selling book, Digital Transformation and Legal Transformation. She is personally interested in topics that center around democratization through digitization. Petra, welcome. Would you like to say hello as well and maybe tell us more about your projects?
Yes, thank you very much, Michaela, for this nice introduction. And I think you have already said everything. And one of my heart projects is, of course, this A2 project, means access to justice, access to medicine, access to insurance. And I think with the digitalization, we are all able to do this today. And Mariana already told about these amazing projects. You have women now, they are just running their own business. And this is something I'm very, 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 very proud of, that this is possible. And we also support women in doing this. And this is one of really my heart projects, with digitalization, giving women access to participate from wherever they are. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Petra, and welcome. So now I would like to start the panel discussion. So let's get started, and I would like to begin by asking Beatrice. Beatrice, decentralization and women empowerment. What are the goals connected with the concept of decentralization in hindsight of women empowerment? We cannot hear you. You are on mute.
Okay. Well, the goals of decentralization and digitalization are, as I already said, that the women have an easier access to education and entrepreneurship and finance and healthcare in even rural areas. They can take part in an international on an international level of education and also of entrepreneurship and finance and healthcare. They can be taught the same way as in former times. People only were able if they attend lycees or high schools in cities and something like that. So you can put them on the same level everywhere. And this is, I think, a very important feature, that we can take up this level on a broad base. And they can also take part in an international exchange due to the technology devices. Yeah, you see that during this Corona crisis, you could see that you can exchange on a worldwide base or via this. If you are able to use these technologies, you can exchange on a worldwide base, exchange of knowledge, exchange of can sell products even on this base, and you can learn how to be an entrepreneur. This is very important, and on the same way, you can be at home. You can care for your children. You can care for your family if you organize it the best way as possible. So you're still part of your local entity and can take part and participate on international education and international entrepreneurship. And this is a very good thing, I think.
I completely agree with you. So now I would like to ask Mariana. Mariana, what are the short and long-term effects that women may see and feel as a result of decentralization?
Well, it's a great question. First of all, we need to focus on the word decentralization. Okay, decentralization means we move the decision of the power of decision from the central head. Now, if we look across the globe, even though we have amazing movement in women having access to those pivot decision positions, be it in political or commercial, still women are in layers below. And decentralization means we will give access to decision making, and we will give a possibility for women to have an impact without them being in top power, so in the top of pyramid. So if that decentralization process will facilitate impact of changes and facilitate women's being heard and facilitate improvement of systems, societies, products to consider the needs of women, then this will be only a step towards us being heard, first of all. Second of all, for the world to adjust to our needs as much as the needs of men. But third of all, this way we have a possibility to shine. Because if we haven't been heard before, but then our input now, even though at, let's say, mid-level of management would make a change to the entity, that's a great opportunity for us to be seen and promoted faster to position of power. So decentralization of its own, I think it's just a ingredient to the shift that the whole world is working hard on women having access and opportunity to prove their worth.
Okay, amazing. Thank you. And maybe one more question. What do you think, how we can give the women the power? Because you said it's about more and more power to be more visible.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people are scared of the word power. And here I want to clarify what I mean by power. We don't need to actually give power to men or women. We're not making a competition. In my humble opinion, it's not us to prove that we're better than men or we're better than other women. Power of you as a person is a power of choice, first of all. So I need to be able to choose without being judged, right? Do I want to have a career or do I want to be a mom? Do I want to have both, right? Also, I need to have the power to speak up when, I mean, take from hygienic products that have been made for women, but not adapted for women because they've been made without being listened, of inputs for women. So power is not me being the boss. Power is me being heard and me having an impact towards an improvement. So when I speak about decentralization, giving us women more power, it's actually giving us the right to be heard, to be seen, to be promoted, to be going against the bias of expectation of us to be weaker, less experienced. Oh, you've been on maternity leave for 5 years, you forgot how to do your work. So then a man who was working for 5 years is better than you. That's an automatic bias. So giving us the power is not for us to control others or to win others. It's for us to show strength and equally have access to the opportunities to make that change, be it in services and products or in politics. So that's how I see power from my perspective.
Okay, thank you very much for the clarification. Beatrice, Petra, what do you think? What are your experiences with the development? Do you think, I know that Beatrice already mentioned laptop, the new digitalization technology.
May I jump in here? Yes, I think what Mariana was just saying and also what Beatrice was saying is it is very, very important to enable women to do this. And I have a wonderful story. And this afternoon, by the way, she's talking on our platform. This is a doctor in Pakistan, and she studied medicine. And it's very, very important for women to study medicine in Pakistan because it's the so-called doctor's bride. So if you study medicine, if you're a doctor, you get the better match. So, and she studied, and a lot, and you see there's 60+% women in Pakistan studying medicine. But what happens once they are married? Either they are not allowed or they don't dare to work. But the majority is not allowed to work. So she was sitting at home with two little children and she was bored to tears. And coming back to decentralization. So first people who did know her as a doctor, they called her saying, hey, could you help us? And they used FaceTime to just like deal with that because she had to see the patient. And then while she was doing this, she was calling a colleague of her, also a doctor, also with two kids. And then they said, why don't we team up? And they started really literally with cell phones, decentralized medicine, med tech, let's call it that way. And within 5 years, they built the biggest telemedicine platform for women in Pakistan. They are now expanding to other countries in the Middle East. And this for me is a wonderful example of what we are doing. First of all, if we don't integrate women, we lose all their education, we lose their power, we lose 50% of super skilled women. And especially when it comes to Pakistan, for example, you lose all these 60% women, female doctors. So what happens now is she started with women. Of course, she expanded her telemedicine platform to men as well, because and what happens is, what's really amazing in this country, whether it is Middle East or whether it's Africa, they all have their cell phones. So you can basically work with this. And this is just one example from the med tech. You can extend it to fintech, you can extend it to education tech. And I think this is something absolutely amazing. And again, a super example for access to. So with a digital device, and in our times, we do have access to, in this case, medicine. And that is for me an amazing example of starting a company from a decentralized starting point.
Yeah, it's really amazing story. Thank you very much for sharing it with us. And yeah, I think what already Beatrice mentioned, we cannot forget decentralization is going hand by hand with digitalization. And I know, Beatrice, that you had some story as well. You told to me during our test run. If you would like to share it with us.
Yes, I have also a story. I have, yeah, I told you, yes, of course. I have an prodigy in Africa and his sister, and they were. I met them and they were really sad about because they didn't see any chance to come over the next day. And I thought, okay, what can we do? I tried to help the guy to apply at the Make It in Germany platform, because I was calling around at our chambers of commerce and so on. And they said, yeah, you should apply at this platform. And that we realized that they have high demands, as that he has to speak perfectly German, yeah? And this is not really realistic in this part of this world. So I said, okay, we will not go on this way. And I tried to help him establish a little restaurant. So I had to pay on my own. I tried to establish with him a little restaurant. And then I said, yeah, try to find out what in your region is the most, the preferred dish that they all want, and try to do it the best way so that everybody's coming to you. So we had a lot of hurdles to overcome. We had to rent a ground. We had to build this little imbiss. We had to go on. Then his sister came in, and she also need the cooking. She did the cooking then for his restaurant, and there I suppose. Do you think you can do some biscuits for the market and sell it on markets and something like this? Meanwhile, she's baking cakes at home and biscuits and muffins at home. And we go on step by step. Now we bought a little bus, a little van that they can sell their products in a wider circle. And on this way, I learned what it is necessary on the rural areas in Africa, for instance, for a woman and for a man, and about the problems if they get sick, they don't have any insurance, they cannot afford to buy the medicines, and there are really problems. But everybody, as you said, has a smartphone, and so therefore the smartphone is the tool the tool for development. I wrote a book about of Vincent Ma. He called it the digital Silk Road, and this is a very interesting hint what we can do with digitalization and digital tools to help developing people in faraway districts. And so we went on now on this case, and I tried to integrate him in also in this hub model approach. I just tried to go on with, and because he's out of a farmer family, he and his sister, and he knows a lot about farming, and we said, okay, let's do also the farming component around the restaurant and use the restaurant for selling this product and so on. So this was my way to the African agri entrepreneurship, and the tool was the smartphone. This is true.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Beatrice, sharing with us your story as well, because I think these are, let's say, the case studies we have to see, and then we can analyze and it's, let's say, about sharing experiences and see, okay, what can we do? So you started, let's say, with small initiative and how we can help people and really develop a successful business. So I would like to ask Petra now. Do you think that decentralization is really a key arena in struggle for women's political empowerment?
Thank you very much, Michaela. As I said already, I think decentralization is where it starts. And you can start with small business. You basically can today start with not with no budget, but with a low budget, which allows to start and to be visible. Another example here, for example, we in Africa, people also they can study online universities, Khan University to mention one, or all the other online universities. You can do it by yourself. And we have, for example, I have an example because I'm in legal technology also. There's a young lady, also a young woman, also with kids, and she started and she has built a legal tech company, meaning she is providing simple automated contracts on a platform where the other women just can download these contracts. So if they start then their business, they are kind of protected with contracts, which wasn't there before. And therefore, I really do believe this is a very, very good start where you can start with a little money and you can start. And that is very important because still today, if a woman has children, the children still there, but they can do it with their children, etc., etc. And therefore, I think it's a very, very good tool to start your own business. And decentralization is important because you can start basically in your village, in your city, in your region, and that's important. And you can offer help, and you can even you can become a role model for other women who also want to start their own business.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And I would like to know Mariana's opinion. What do you think, Mariana? What are, let's say, the benefits of decentralization for companies in the commercial and public sector?
I mean, I touched a little bit on the decentralization impact on my earlier reply. I think that giving access to diversity in general can only benefit the final result. And here we speak about diversity of gender, diversity of color, diversity of age, even. Because as we see generations swap and change so much, it's very important that the change that comes ahead is considerate and accessible to everybody, from people of determination to women's needs to, let's say, more technologically advanced countries and less technologically advanced countries. Now, if we speak specifically in tech, I mean, nowadays, tech is the future. Online platform is the future. We were speaking 5 years ago of, let's say, a vision of technological artificial intelligence and VR, and now we have Expo in Dubai that has VR accessible to everybody free of charge. I mean, we see how quickly things are advancing, and if we touch now from the perspective of, let's say, companies, if I am a company that produces a product and needs to sell it to the wider audience, it is in my own interest and benefit to consider the angles, perspective of a full diversity of potential users, right? So women are a major buyer of those products or services, and they have to be heard and they have to be given access to. But also, we all know, scientifically proven, the way we think, the way we act is different from men. So when we create a platform, or when we create an innovative product, when we create either physical technology or intellectual technology like artificial intelligence, software platforms, fintech solutions, as well as metaverse, which now is growing heavily, we need to consider that our user is not one type of user and it's not one nationality of user. Our user is a broad user. So the creators, the decision makers have to be diverse for that product or service to be applicable and approachable at the end user's level. So we don't want to promote only women from, let's say, a specific country because we think they know. We have to promote women from different countries because those that don't know have to know. So when the woman comes from that background, from humble background or advanced background in technology specifically, that creativity approach and that need is communicated directly and efficiently. So decentralization and access to background, education, ability, age, and diversity will only have to benefit everybody, the buyer, the consumer, the seller, as well as, let's say, the chairmen and the board of directors that at the end look at the financial benefit. So it's not detrimental, it's needed, it's mandatory, and it's beyond the awareness process. It needs to be implemented, in my humble opinion.
Okay, thank you very much, Mariana. And you already catch now or start talking about one topic, is metaverse. And we have also here the question about that. I mean, metaverse is kind of decentralization. Petra, you created the forum in Davos. What do you think about metaverse? What are your experiences? Because I think Switzerland is a synonym to digital assets.
Could you please repeat your question, Michaela? I didn't hear you.
I mean, because here we had a question in the chat box. If we can maybe mention and give a feedback about on the topic women in metaverse, and how do you see it will evolve?
Well, I think we are at the beginning here, and metaverse at the moment is still a buzzword. And I always say, if you don't have metaverse as your experience in your LinkedIn profile, you are lost. No, to be quite honest, I think we will do a lot in the metaverse, and I think women have a wonderful opportunity here, because as Mariana already said, is we have to listen to the end users, and the end users are 51% of women. And you see, for example, the whole e-commerce or the whole femtech, you see what's going to happen. You see how companies who start in the femtech industry, how more and more women, how more and more big companies are coming to just like working with them together. And then, of course, they will be able to use metaverse, they will be able to use the VR and augmented reality and all the other tools that come together when it comes to just like teach about, like, say, simple stuff like breast cancer, menstruation, pregnancy, etc., etc. And I think this is a huge opportunity for women around the world. And what Marianne also was saying is, it's super important. What has been invented was invented without the women involved. So you just like start something, you have a product, and you think, well, that's good. You never ask the end users what is happening with you, and what happens at the moment, regardless where you look at. The people just put themselves in the shoes of the end users, or in this case, they are the end users, because it's first time ever that women start growing their business. And if you look at this, you see totally different impacts. For example, when we did the host digital forum, we had a presentation about smart city solutions, and they had big problems. They had big problems with snow in some city in Sweden, and the men, they started to just like try to empty the streets with snow. And then the women came into place and said, well, you shouldn't do the streets, you should do the runways where people walk. because there happened the accidents. People were falling down and they broke their whatever arm, their leg, and then they could not support any longer their families. So the whole smart city development in this city then started from integrating women and all these important users to change the behavior. And I think we start with that, and I think metaverse is something we should discuss maybe in 2 years or 1 year from now, because in my opinion at the moment, it's super. That will give a lot of opportunities, but we should start with simple business and integrating women in the whole process finding of creating products, for example.
Yeah, I agree with you. And now I'd like to maybe move on another side, because now we talked about business. Let's not talk about government processes. What do you think? What are the benefits of involving women in the local government processes? I think now we have here, let's say, 3 different countries. We have UAE, Germany, Switzerland. So maybe we can try to compare it. What is the biggest difference? And what is the development? Is it fast? Is it slowly? Can we recognize the women in the government? What is changing? Do you have any experiences, Beatrice? I mean, you're working for German government.
You know Angela Merkel? No, we had a woman as a president, so therefore I think this was one first step that is very important. You have a female president in a country. Her way to govern was, as we can see, different. The man's way to govern are they cannot explain. Most of them do not explain that much, or Angela Merkel seems to moderate everything a bit. Yeah, she seemed always to be on a moderative point of view. Maybe it's Angela Merkel herself, but it can also be a typical female character that is mentioned here. Yeah, so this is one thing you can see, and on the other hand, I think it is a female character that the women try to moderate the views and are not on a strict positive or strict negative side as sometimes men are. Men come to a decision and say, "Man, this, and this, and if you don't do that, we have to do that," and so on. This is straight. This is also good, but in combination, I think it's even better that you have somebody who moderates a bit, and the other one is deciding to do this and that, and the other moderates these views. So this moderator role of Angela Merkel was very much known, and I think it's a typical sign of a female rulership.
Agree with you, Mariana. Middle East. I mean, this is maybe a completely different model. Do you think it can work like this, for example, like in Germany with Angela Merkel?
Well, obviously, we speak about different legal structures and different political structures. UAE is known as a federal state of conglomerate of 7 emirates, so it works from a political structure differently from what Germany has. However, I would start by giving an example of what the world has seen, of how, for example, COVID has been handled in countries where at leadership women have made these decisions compared to other countries. Again, I don't want to say that one is better than the other, but we have seen more empathy, for example, and more decisions made with kindness rather than very financial or rigid political decisions. This is, again, a generalization. Of course, there are countries like UAE that have handled UAE impeccably, and at top leadership, we have men, the royal families, but also we have a lot of women that are ministers of state, women that have driven the COVID decisions. So once again, I would reiterate what I said before. I think that the empathy, the let's say the more specialized approach that we bring as women, in combination with the typical nature of let's say scientifically proven men, brings better results at the end to the end users. And in the government aspect, we have obviously, for example, in the UAE, a ministry of tolerance. So they have created an entire ministry about tolerance and kindness. And you'd be surprised, you'd want maybe by bias to have a woman as a minister, but it's not. It's actually a man, and he does His Excellency does an exceptional job. And the country has known a shift in tolerance and acceptance of nationalities, religions, and so on, and it is recognized as one of the most stable, peaceful, and safe countries across the globe. But for example, the Ministry of Food Standardization and Metrology was initiated by a talented minister woman, which came with exceptional knowledge and expertise from across the globe, and an Emirati culture and heritage, and has made a wonderful change in food security, food standardization, and so on in the region, leading from the UAE. So I think that once again, women involvement is complementary to the current status. It's not detrimental, and I don't want to showcase a competition, because then we instigate that hatred that happens sometimes, like why feminists or why non-feminists. However, at government level, considering that we have to be, as a government, considerate of layers of society, needs of society, problems of society, beyond what we see economic and political standard news. I mean, the social part of things, the social welfare, the support of layers of society, the support of minorities. There's so many other intricacies that we have to consider. And when we put vision, either men or women, and then skills that are good in both and deliver the best to the end user, then it's an improvement for the country and for the region. I mean, successful countries next to each other rise an entire union. So women do make a change in the UAE and the Middle East. They have definitely done so in the last 10 years and will continue doing so, because they're a part of the vision of the countries for the next 50 years ahead. And I'm proud to be part of it.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Mariana. And my question is, because you already mentioned that more times, it's about communication. And I know we had a webinar, now it's 1 month ago, we talked about communication and how to empower the women. So this is, of course, a very important topic. What will you recommend, let's say, to the companies, if you would like to involve, let's say, more women, how to learn the communication? Are there any methods or what will you recommend to companies if they will like to start, involving more women? Maybe to start learning from each other.
Sure. I mean, again, if we have at the base tolerance and empathy, then we always find a route of non-conflict and understanding the feedback from the other party while understanding the background and the reason of that feedback. And that is a key to an efficient communication. Obviously, having a different upbringing sometimes, a different nationality or different expectations or anticipation, communication can be in breach. However, if we find that flexibility and approach in not only pushing our agenda and our perspective, but being considerate of others while with correct arguments and the right angle, convince, it's a debate. I used to love debates in school. I mean, this was my favorite experience. And even though I had an amazing teacher which used to give us the subject to actually convince the entire room of something that is wrong, but you have to find a way to convince it that it's right. So you have to find the right arguments, the right approach, not be conflictual, and in a way convince someone that it's not raining from up to down, but it's raining from down to up. Make it happen. And that was a great exercise in this case for the communication. It's not about being confrontational and proving that I am right because I'm a woman, or proving that my perspective is better because I'm a woman. It is about us as women supporting each other and communicating with each other. So then we deliver a group same narrative, because with volume, obviously we're easier heard. And with a group same narrative, don't go in confrontational, but find the right arguments and the right approach to have our message delivered. So in that case, communication will always be efficient.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mariana. Petra, what do you think about the development in Switzerland? We talked already about Middle East, Germany.
Well, I think when it comes to Switzerland, it's for sure not a role model supporting women. There are various reasons. It's a very, very conservative country. Also, you do have a lot of women in the government, for example, but it's not really supporting women. Just like if you look at schools start at 8 and they close basically at 1 o'clock, and then it's up to you to deal with the children. Same with the kindergarten. So basically, if you want to have a support with your children, for example, all day, you need to hire someone. But there's also another problem in Switzerland, and that's a unique problem. I think it only applies for Switzerland. You see that if a country is too wealthy, it's not good for a country, because it means that, for example, especially in Switzerland, a lot of women, they don't work. So again, they have a super education, they are trained, they are doctors, they are lawyers, they are whatsoever, but they don't work. So I call them basically cappuccino mamas. They stay at home because they love staying at home. And I think this is something which is not good for a small country like Switzerland, because there's a competition outside. If you look, for example, Central European countries, you see much more women studying in STEM, because they see, if I work in STEM, I get a good salary, etc., etc. And this is something where you see a majority of women in Switzerland, they don't work because they are too rich, they don't need to work. So having said that, Switzerland, if you see in all the statistics, it always falls behind all the other countries in the world. And again, there is no, let's say, stress, because the country is so rich. And whenever a country is rich, that's the difference to a super poor country. There is no competition and they don't do a lot. So I think from that point of view, Switzerland is not a role model when it comes to supporting women at all. And again, it's also that I have to admit it's also the situation in the country where you don't need to work. And what I see with I have this project, Role Model Rebels, I see a lot of women coming back to work, so mid-career, and they have had a super, super, super good education, but they haven't worked for years because they stayed at home with the kids. And it was never easy to go back to work. But during the pandemic times, and the whole situation has changed so much. We do have tools. They are so different. So they come back, they have had a good education, and now they come to realize, oh, there is I simply can't cope with the challenges that are out there. And there you see first time ever that people need to get trainings, even those who have been trained on a very, very high level, they to just like re-enter the job market. So that is a little bit situation in Switzerland. And to be quite honest, it's nothing to be proud of.
But do you think it's, let's say, only the problem of a rich country? For example, we will take some emerging countries from some emerging market, or for example Africa. Do you think that those countries are, let's say, more motivated to promote women's?
I did not understand because you're cutting off, unfortunately.
Oh,
So
I'm
there
sorry.
is
No, my question was because we talked now about, okay, so Switzerland is, let's say, a rich country. So you don't have the motivation to empower women. Do you think, let's say, some countries in Africa, which are not so rich, are, let's say, more motivated
yes,
to
yes, for
encourage
sure.
them?
For
Yeah.
sure. Everyone, if you have nothing, the next step is just a little bit higher and you reach it and you are motivated to do it. And you see that all the countries there's a reason that, for example, China is ahead of the crowd. There's a reason that a lot of African countries and a lot of Middle East countries are just ahead of the crowd, because if you have nothing to lose and you're so motivated. And there's such a different motivation when it comes to poorer countries. 100%. This is like, let's say, this is if you have motivated people, they want to achieve something, you achieve everything. If you have people who are just like not hungry any longer, you won't achieve a lot in the long run.
Yeah. And maybe I would like to ask you, Beatrice, because you mentioned you have lots of projects in Africa. Do you think that, let's say, more women are applying to become part of the project in the last years? Or is it still?
Yes, as I heard from my professors, that a lot of young Africans are applying into project, also women. and I think they know about their chance to take to jump in this. Jump in this process of education and entrepreneurship. And I heard also that the most microcredits, I think not the most, but a lot of microcredits, I got the figures, I got over the figures, are given to women. And they are very successful in establishing their own little enterprises and also pay back these credits very good. So women are very well liked in the credit department because they pay back the microcredits, as I heard.
Okay, amazing. And I think one more question related to that, because what we said, okay, so more and more women will apply, let's say, for the project. So it's mean there will be less space for the men. And do you think that the decentralization means that the women will take success away from the men? Um, or will it allow for women to contribute to the success of the current commercial and diplomatic society? Mariana, what do you think?
I mean, together we're a power for sure, and we don't want to exclude the men. We do want the men to contribute to our success, and we cannot just do a power overturn overnight and expect things to happen. At the end, we want to benefit for the fortes and the strengths of both parties, right? Um, my personal experience, and here I publicly want to say thank you to a lot of men mentors in the UAE that have helped me over years and supported me and cheered me up. And even now, while we're in this session, I have two men that are very recognized in the region that texted me on the WhatsApp and they said, I'm watching, this is amazing, congratulations. And I think that we do need that. I mean, yes, women, we are a power and we support and congratulate each other, but I wouldn't have done what I have done without the support of my exceptional husband that took over sometimes of the role of the parent in the family so I could dedicate my time to the career. I also couldn't have had the access to the projects and the supports in the government platforms without the trust that men in those government positions have put in me and supported me to and given me this opportunity to that access. And also, I wouldn't have probably I would have learned by doing a lot more mistakes without having those men mentors that literally were proud of what I achieved and wanted to give without expecting anything back until they are wonderful friends or family friends that have become. So I think it's like making a recipe for a type of food. If you don't put all the ingredients, then the food will maybe be okay, but will never be exceptional. So it's the same in our collaboration in the role of men and women. In tech or not tech, the background, the expertise, the history, the heritage of men is as important as ours. However, the bias is stronger than ours. And what we need to work on is not to exclude them, but convert them into supporting us, trusting us, and seeing us for who we truly are. Not more, not less.
Agree with you. Yeah, amazing. And I would like to ask you, all of you, we do now a prediction. Where do you see women in next 10 years? What will be the development, in your opinion? Beatrice.
Well, I think they will almost reach the same level as men, and I think in our country we had a funny example in the last weeks that there was a photo of only male participants of a dinner at the security conference in Munich. I hope that in the next 10 years there will as much as women on this photo. This is maybe something we have to reach in the next 10 years. To be a bit mean in the moment, but I'm really positive that it will happen. That that the women will take part, especially in the upper level. I think in the wider scale it is already the same, but in the upper top 10 management liga, I think they have to to grow in this space. So I hope it will be the way the next 10 years.
Amazing. But what do you think? What can we do, let's say, to encourage them, even especially in Germany? Because now you say, okay, we see the picture, it should be changed. What can we do as a woman? As
What we
women.
do, we have to be self-assured that we can do it the same way, and our male friends should also take us serious. This is maybe, and I said, as Mariana said, our male friends, because we should be friends with the male part and not concurrents. We are not rivals. We should work together. This is very important to recognize from both sides, I think.
I agree with you. Petra.
I'm not so positive, to be quite honest, because what I see is, the rise of women goes ahead with the hate against women. What you see, it's threatening men if women are successful. And of course, you see this, for example, also with the rise of the right-wing parties, whether this is political parties, whether this is in the US or whether it is in Germany or Switzerland. And you see the right-wing parties are very much dominated by men. I would say 70-80% of these right-wing parties are men, and these are usually not those who are very, very, let's say, educated. So we are facing a problem there, in my eyes, that we do have, the more women are getting on the top of the level of companies, the more men feel, well, we are left behind. So I think this is very, very important. And you see this also with the rise of, attacks, cyber attacks on successful women, whether they are political animals or whether they are working in normal companies. You see their their hate speeches against women. So I do believe that we will be able to reach another level, but I don't think that in 10 years from now we will have on this security conference table 50% women. But I think we are on the right way. I would say 10 years from now, maybe we have a 20% increase, but I think we are far away from gender equality.
You think, let's say, different. Yeah, Beatrice.
No, I don't think that the right-wing parties are led by men, because if you think of Marine Le Pen and our German right-wing parties, Frau Mrs. Weidel and the others, these are women and men, and especially on the top are women of the right-wing parties. I think, as I realized, maybe you have different
No,
parties
I
in
think
your
you're right.
Switzerland.
You're right. These are the faces of the right-wing parties, but the
Mhm.
majority of right-wing voters and the majority of right-wing members are men. But regardless of that, just think this is a problem if we don't include these group of people. Let's say, right, in general, as a society, if we don't include these people, they feel left behind. And you also see this with the digitalization. If we don't enable them to get the qualification to participate in a digital world, if we leave them behind, we are facing problems. And this is,
Mm.
I just explained it with women because this is what I have seen. But I think this is a problem in general. We have to enable people to participate in this digital society. And only if we are able to do this, if we include basically everyone from the society, we will rise as a society and women will have equal rights.
I may approach this from a more maybe a slightly different angle. I think as well that 10 years is a long time, but also not enough. Because we are almost fighting against the status quo. We're fighting against generations of men following father, son, grandson, and so on directives and directions. Okay, so we're going at the moment, in my humble opinion, and we look at global perspective. We are from European countries. I see myself as privileged in the nowadays global situation to be from European countries. And yes, there are changes that we see. But if we look at the global perspective, we are very, very far away. I mean, Asia, African continent, even Europe, in some of the Eastern European countries, women are still oppressed, severely oppressed. And women faces are used for populist political scopes. They're not actually in real power. They don't have the power to say or do something. They're put there because this is the narrative globally, and parties or companies benefit from that facade. But what we speak about is substance. I'd rather have 10% change, but have that as a true, real substance change, where women really have a feel of that impact and their livelihood and lives improve, rather than have an 80% change of facade, pivoted people for the sake of going with the narrative. So in my humble opinion, 10 years is not enough, because we need to change a generation. We go with education of a new generation that comes ahead. So to grow a generation that understands it as a normality takes decades, in my humble opinion. However, where we can, it is our duty and obligation to have that impact and to speak up. What I find is that the women that don't see that as imminent or as damaging or as intrusive, they are more complacent until obviously it touches them directly. However, if we want to change something with impact, really, as anything else, right? If we had to act against COVID, we had to act globally and united. If we had to act against something else, or any other historic changes that were and overturned, never happened because one country or one woman fought against it. It has to be generational change. We need to educate our sons to love and respect women, and to show by example of how women should be treated or valued. We also need to educate the younger generations through schools and universities to give that equal access and to allow people to speak up. And when we can and where we can, have an impact on countries that are less, let's say, into the benefit of having those changes and more in need, I find.
Yeah, amazing. I think, yeah, it's very difficult, and you're talking, let's say, about new generation, let's say, new people, because it's very difficult, let's say, to change someone's mind if you grow up, let's say, in some society for 50 years, then to and change, let's say, the mind, change the opinion. Yeah, it's not easy, but I think this was one of our topics as well, the metaverse. Do you think this can be, let's say, for now, a kind of solution before changing the generations? Because this will be not in 10 years, you're talking about maybe next 30 years. So do you think if we will create, let's say, metaverse, a new universe, let's say, for us? I know that Petra mentioned many times this, like, the women are leading the metaverse, are leading, let's say, the digital world. And that, because you mentioned, okay, we have to include men. So it sounds like we are deciding who will be part of it. Do you think we have, let's say, the power? Or are the women are more powerful?
I'm not sure how literate I am to speak about metaverse per se. I mean, I have tangencies with it, and I'm very curious about it, and I have already a few projects that I work with in metaverse. I mean, yes, when we have the power to take that stage and to take that decision making, then why not? I'm not saying we have to or we're obliged to include or not. However, metaverse as a platform at the moment is seen as a platform of future. Why? And why it is now so much in appeal with the younger generation? Because in metaverse, you can be whoever you want and do whatever you want and look as you want, as we speak about the avatars and artificial intelligence. Now, however, let's look at the realistic perspective of metaverse. Nowadays, metaverse realistically has or is bringing an impact, a tangible impact, where? In retail and luxury retail. And who are the majority users of luxury retail? There's obviously women. So metaverse is now listening to its potential consumers, and this is why it is adapted to that need. Okay, that's how I see it as immediate. But then later, obviously, metaverse can be implemented in medical, education, and other angles and aspects. And I don't think it has to be exclusive to women. As a brand, again, we need to attach to the consumers. But because we are touching so much that generation and so much the new brains and the new minds and the new access, including women, I think we can create directives of it being inclusive, and of it starting from the start correctly without being made specifically from one side or another, to be considerate and inclusive. So metaverse as a space needs to be safe, needs to be approachable, needs to be the future, but needs to be considerate to us as women, because at the moment we are the majority users once again. So this is my perspective, but I mean, as Petra was saying, metaverse is literally Facebook 20 years ago. So let's give it some time to mature and to see which industries grab it and how they work with it, and in which direction it's going to take it, and then dictate its development to the needs of where it is implemented, for sure.
Amazing. Thank you, Mariana. Beatrice, what do you think about the metaverse? Your opinion, let's say, the situation in Germany.
Yeah, I see it the same way as Mariana. I could say I can hardly add anything to that, because it's we have to watch it over in the moment. We have to see, and if it is true that the women are the one for the luxury products. This is truly the women is, from an entrepreneurship view, the woman is, is the victim, the client. To a woman, you buy the luxury products. For a man, it's more the cars. Maybe it's also a luxury product on the other hand, yeah, and the watches and the maybe the yachts and something like that. Okay, but I think if it's based on this view, I think in metaverse both gender will profit, I think.
Hopefully. Yeah. So amazing, and thank you really all of you for this very exciting discussion. And now I just would like to ask you to briefly make a statement or recommendation for our audience to close this discussion. Beatrice.
Recommendation for our audience.
Yeah.
I would say really a good message Mariana mentioned. We are not rivals. We are companions. Yeah, we are not rivals with men, and we can both do it together. So I think that's the best message. Yeah.
Thank you, Petra.
And for me, it's basically really a lifelong learning approach, and including everyone else. That's for me the outlook to the future.
Okay. Thank you, Petra. And Mariana?
I might go a little bit controversial in my last message. Commonly, we hear women saying, "Oh, I actually like to work with men more than women because some women are mean or not as supportive." What I would, again, this is a general sentence that I hear a lot. What I would like to say is that we are not better than one another, and if we empower and support each other, genuinely, I mean, I don't have to sell you my secret of business, but if I can give you one advice that will help you, it's the same advice that maybe I got it from someone else. The smallest advice can advance or change the next woman that comes behind you. And even though this is a very common statement, I do feel it, I do see it, and we have made the changes we made. That image that Dr. Beatrice was mentioned, maybe 10 years ago, nobody would even have mentioned anything about it because everybody would have been quiet, right? But in the moment now that we start speaking up and support each other, sustain each other in that speak up and that moving forward, then this image went viral and it went crazy because one woman is no power. We all together are power. So my last message is that the smallest, maybe insignificant advice or support that you can give to someone coming behind you might literally change the world to the next one. So just be kind to each other and support each other because we are as strong as we are as a movement, not just independently.
Thank you very much, Marina. Thank you, all of you. And before we go, please let me hand over the microphone to my colleague, Jörg Tuchen, Chair of Climate Action.
Thank you very much, Michaela. I really loved to hear those last statements and last interactions between you. I did not join the full discussion and the full webinar, but it sounds very interesting to me. But my key message for you is thank you very much for being here, for joining this webinar, for sharing your expertise, your insights, and for so lively interacting and engaging. So what we have for each of the more than 200 webinars at EUTech is a little gesture of our appreciation for what I just listed. I will hand over a tree certificate to each of you. I will not show them right now because I have some technical difficulties on my computer, but I will definitely send them after the webinar. So it's a nicely designed certificate, and that represents one tree planted for you in Africa. As I said, little gesture of appreciation. If you or also the people in the audience are interested in learning more about the tree planting program in Africa, or are interested in learning more about the climate consulting services GoBlue Now is offering, please reach out to me. I'm more than happy to address all your questions, engage into any kind of interaction with you. And having said that, thank you very much again, and handing back to you, Michaela, and have a great rest of the day.
Thank you very much, Jörg. And thank you all. It has been really a pleasure having you, Beatrice, Mariana, and Petra in this webinar. And also, I would like to thank you to the audience for attending, for asking lots of questions, to interact with us. And we hope to see you again soon, hopefully next week, because we will have a follow-up networking group. So even you, Beatrice, Mariana, Petra, if you could join us to network and interact with the audience. And as we always say, technology obliges. Goodbye and see you soon. Thank you very much and have a great day.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye.
Bye-bye.